and I was a science student who switched to philosophy as my major because that was the only class that allowed me 7 to 9 a.m. Right. So I would go for my philosophy classes and I would uh, do a full time job, but there was not enough money to take care of the family. So I used to do a lot of side hustles. Right. So I'll talk about three, four businesses that I did as a kid. And this is all before I had legal age to do anything at all. One was I built mixtapes, which are downloaded music from the internet, and made mixtapes for people on a CD and burnt it and gave it to them. And I used somebody else's computer, somebody else's internet, because I had no access to any of these things, and I would give them take rate. But I realized that people love the idea of being making something personalized versus buying something from the store, which is mixtape of somebody else, and the idea of gifting. They were okay to pay 3 to 4x more than the normal mixtape that you would get from the market because this is made by me, right? And I was very happily this guy. So what I did is I started going to all the music stores and I said, I will make the mixtapes for your clients. uh, this is my price to you, you can charge whatever you want. And they would make 5x more profit selling my mixtapes than the music label thing. I understand that business was not really legal, but as a 15-year-old I did not know better, I had to survive. So I did what I had to do. Then I built another business, which was henna. Have you seen that people put henna on their hands? I built that business where I realized that people put henna to really differentiate themselves in Indian weddings, to really look better than I have the better design on my hands. Like it's almost like a temporary tattoo that people put. And I realized that the biggest need people had was design was not enough, the color of henna had to change. So I figured out a way to build black henna, which I learned from some Arabic culture was possible, and sold that in the retail stores under a brand that I made when I was 16, 17. uh, and that sold at 10x more price than the regular henna because it allowed people to differentiate themselves, have a superior status. So that's another thing I learned, that people love to personalize and put a signature and give more value. People love to have higher status than others and pay more value, and they didn't even care about the price, because what I did is I said this is short supply. So what I did, I said that I can only supply you two a day. It's complex process to make it. It wasn't complex process. I just artificially create scarcity in the market, and I had to learn all of this because I could really not make enough because I was having a full-time job and doing other things, right? The other thing I learned was I also started doing some private tuitions for kids to teach multiple subjects, whatever people would send. And I realized that people love teaching their kids exotic subjects. So I would like teach them Excel, and I would not know these subjects. I would ask them, what do you really want to learn? I would learn that previous night and teach them, because people love the idea of having special skills given to their kids which were not available easily in the market. So they were looking for tuition teacher who would say, oh, can you teach this particular skill, can you teach that particular skill? And I would learn that. And I realized that uh, I learned the best when I had to teach. So I started doing that a lot. And it was the fastest way to make money. It was a negative CAC way of learning in life, right? So I think a lot of these concepts made me realize that the Indian society was a lot different. And in my career, I did a lot of other businesses which were sold to the US and Western market and Indian market. And I think most Western companies do not understand Asian society. The the Maslow's hierarchy of Asian society is completely different to the Western society. But unfortunately, all the marketing textbooks are made in the West, and then they come to the Indian market and they get shocked on what people really pay for in these markets. And I think therefore a lot of Western companies struggle to make monetize from these markets. They can get a lot of DAUs and MAUs from this market, but rarely ARPU from this market, because they don't understand what people pay for over here. So I think that was the big lesson I learned. So one of the biggest shocking thing for me when I'm during my first trip to the US was I figured that almost everybody's first job paid them an hourly salary. In India, nobody has ever earned an hourly salary in their entire life. Now, there's a dangerous thing that happens because of that. Nobody understands what's their value per hour. If you ask any Indian, if you ever come to India and go to any store, any hotel, any restaurant, ask the guy, what's your salary per hour? Cannot answer that question. Because of that, they take poor decisions with their time, and they don't understand the value of time. So, products that sell convenience and save you your time rarely monetize, which monetize a lot in the Western society, because everybody understands the value of hour. Because their first job was, I don't know, $10 an hour, and then now they are doing well in life, but they can still do a math on approximate basis. Now my salary seems to be $500 an hour, and they just get it, and therefore they take very interesting decisions. They will not try to optimize for a $50 discount on their flight tickets uh, when they are making $500, because they'll say that's not worth my time. No Indian will ever say it's not worth my time. And that's true for many Asian societies, because value of time as a concept was never taught. Efficiency is not a DNA you see in Asia. But a flip side I have noticed is that everything that feels soulful in life is inefficient. All the vacations that we find very soulful are inefficient places. The food that we really, really like and find soulful are inefficient to cook, right? So I always find these interesting things, that maybe soulfulness is a function of chaos and inefficiency, which Western societies figured out how to scale. And let's compare this to our religion now. Uh, Hinduism is an, I would say, not as scalable as, let's say, many of the other religions, because it's not standardized. There is no one book, no 10 rules, no one God. So what do you really scale? It's an open source religion which people make and built on some principles and tenets which are constantly evolving, and people are allowed to tweak it on their own terms. So it's like evolving very, very differently. And therefore Hinduism is mostly spread through birth, but not through scaling to other societies, uh, because it was not designed. But it is something that you feel more spiritual about and other things. And I think that's where the nuance comes in, that it is impossible to imagine scaling in life without standardizing, and standardizing is the enemy of soulfulness.